Hi everyone, welcome to the VZWBuzz mobile chat recap. And today is Friday. It's just before Labor Day, so I hope everyone is getting ready to a nice long weekend. And sadly, the end of summer. So today we're going to talk and recap a little bit about the discussion we had on Twitter about how to pick the best smartphone for you. If you're on a feature phone, and you're considering a smartphone, or if you have an older smartphone and you're thinking about switching, we're going to give you some of the highlights of and recommendations that we think you need to consider to pick the best one for you. And it's not one size fits all. That's why we have all these choices. And thank you again to Verizon for sponsoring this recap. And I also want to thank Robyn Wright, who is Robyn's World Online. And hey, Robyn, how are you? You're in Missouri.
I am in St. Louis. It's finally cooled down a little bit here. We're done with the 100+ degree days, I think. So,
oh, God.
Yeah, it was too hot.
I know. It's funny, and in the Northeast, the weather has been, well, you know, almost fall-like, very much like 70s, and that's it. So not really too hot and steamy as we used to have, which has been nice.
Yeah.
So one of the conversations we had and how you really approach a new phone. I think you and I have played around with every device that's been out, possibly, and also every possible operating system. So when you narrow it down, in a couple of sound bites, what would you say is the most important thing, or the most important things to think about?
Operating system, price for you, and I think the other ones that kind of trickle down from there, and it would be the features of the phone that you really want. So that kind of covers a big area. But those are the three big things. I think operating system is the first thing to look at for sure. But price point, it doesn't get mentioned as much, but everybody has a different price point, and not everybody wants to spend, $200-300 on a new phone, and that's okay too. There's other phones available.
Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit about carrier, too, because I know, we're sponsored by Verizon, so, clearly they are interested in their own messages and such, but I really think it's very important that people think about that. There's a lot of conversation about, and myths, to be honest, about unlimited data and why people won't switch because they have unlimited data, and I can tell you my experience, and every time I've challenged someone to look at the comparison of plans and leave their unlimited data to consider something like the More Everything plan on Verizon. 99 times out of 100, they save money.
Yeah.
And one other thing is, if you have good reception, where you are, and this is why you have that carrier, what happens when you travel, or what happens when your kids go off to school, or what. So it's not always just about the reception in your own hometown or immediate area. I really strongly suggest that you consider a network that's always going to be there for you. And so, depending on where you live, the carrier, switching carriers is not a big deal anymore. It used to be a big deal, a big commitment. It was almost like, I don't know, switching electric companies or something. You can do it, and just think about which network is going to be there when you need it. When your child's on the road, when you need to make a quick phone call for something, not just emergencies, but when you want to be connected, if you're running a business and such. So think of that carrier question really, really long and hard.
And I didn't include that on my list. Honestly, it slips my mind because I honestly, in real life, use Verizon as my personal carrier. I used a different company before, and then I switched, and I was amazed at the difference. But because it has been so reliable for me, it kind of slips my mind because it's just there. I don't worry about it. Like you said, some of the other ones, I've tried, there's been issues with, and it was a problem, but now there's not. And really, I pay for my own personal thing, for my family and everything. Verizon doesn't pay for that for me, and I really do use it, and I really just rely on it, and it's in the background for me because it just works.
Yeah, I haven't met someone who's switched over to Verizon that has regretted it, to be honest. And yes, you might pay another $10 a month, but I think at this point is to know that we so rely on our phones. It didn't used to be the case. It used to be that you could just put them away and maybe not think about them. But now these powerful devices, they're running our businesses, they're keeping our kids organized, they are, allowing us to connect with our senior parents, elders, be there for emergencies. And so I think a network is a really important thought to have when you're considering a new phone. I have to say that I was always a Macophile. I had every Mac. I had, obviously loved the iPad when it first came out, although I hated its name. And slowly over the last 2 years, the Windows tablets, the Windows OS on mobile, and the Android have so won me over, and there are so many great features about it. So if we were to pick the top 3 reasons for each one of those 3 operating systems, which ones would they be?
Okay, so I'm going to start with iPhones, that kind of thing. You have probably the largest variety of apps, I would say there, although it's getting even, but that's where a lot of app designers go first. They make the iPhone app first. So that's one of the things. There is easy use factor for all iOS devices. It's a very clean operating system, and it's very easy to use. Lots of people, kids and older adults, really pick up on it very well. And the third thing for iOS would be, gosh, I haven't used iOS for a while, so I'm struggling with that one. But I think you have continuity with that company. The iPhones have been around now for so long, and that. So I think that it's a solid product, and there's a solid company behind it. So I think those are great features for that.
Yeah, the other thing I would say on that, they've done really well on iOS is the ecosystem and this is one thing consumers need to be aware of course, right? Every company wants to lock you into their ecosystem. So if you're on an iPhone, they want you to use a Mac. If you're on a Mac, they want you to use an iPhone. And the same is true for the Windows devices, and the same is true for Android, although it's the most open of all. And so I think that's one thing that is very seamless, right? If you're all on your Mac environment, then it makes sense. It makes it very easy for you to watch and stream and download your contacts and everything. So that's the original plan.
Right. And I would say that that is true for the Windows devices now as well. And so I think this latest push from Windows with the new operating systems have really done that as well. So I now have a Windows phone, Windows tablets, Windows laptops, Windows desktops, and I have that same continuity with the ecosystem in that. Now, it's not to say that you can't cross over with all of the different users, make everything work with everything, but it's easier when you're on one ecosystem, like all Apple products or all Windows or whatever. So the other things for Windows devices, let's go there, is I think, and it's along those same lines, is that so many people work on PCs that when you're used to that, it works well with the Windows phones and that now, and you're going to see your same, if you're using Office, for instance. I'm an Office user. It's across the board for me in that. Windows is also very customizable, more so than the iOS devices, I think. The new 8.1 release on the Windows phones is even more customizable than before. The Windows devices are very clean and simple to use, and so it's another ease of use thing there. It's not overly, you can be technical with it, but you don't have to be, and I've always said that about the Windows operating systems. And
one of the things that stands out on the Windows devices is they're really fun to look at. And I was saying earlier that we use our devices all day long. We're staring at them. We're you can't pry them out of our cold hands at night almost. And it's just so important that they look good and they're appealing, right?
The live tiles function on Windows devices is really great. So instead of just having a static icon or even an icon with maybe a little number on it, these actually flip over. You can see different pictures. You can see news updates and the stories, and it's all without, unlocking it. Really, it's just right there on the screen for you. So that's part of that customization, that you can turn those on and off as you like, and put the ones that are important to you front and center on your phone.
Yeah, I think the problem though with Windows devices, just to be candid, is the apps aren't all up to speed. So many times, all of your favorite apps will probably not be available right off the bat on a Windows device. But they're coming up quickly, and they're definitely catching steam. What about the Android system, Robyn? I know you're a big fan of them too.
I am a fan of the Android. And on the Windows thing, real quick, they are coming up, those apps. Don't let that stop you from getting a Windows phone. Okay, so Android devices, they are the most customizable out of anything. There are so many different apps that you can get to customize that people, they kind of hack into their phones. They do so much with it. So if you are really techie and geeky and like doing those things, you definitely want to go with Android, I think. For those that aren't techie and geeky, Android's still a great operating system, but it can be a tiny bit harder to learn how to configure everything.
I'm going to disagree with you on that.
Well, that's all right, because everybody's different, and that's the thing. I think that it becomes a little overwhelming for people, all of the options sometimes that are available on the Android operating system. And so that's where I come across that with some people that aren't overly techie, is that I try to explain to them, they're going, how do I do this? And they're like, oh. When I show them, they go, okay, that's easy, but it's the amount of things that they can do that gets them a little confused sometimes.
Well, in general, I think what's important is that you take the time, everyone takes the time as they're exploring a new environment to really, see what are the important things for you. So, when I grab a new device, my first thought is, okay, my contacts, how about my email, of course my, Twitter, Facebook apps. So those are the first 4 things that I think about, and often now you don't have to worry about that if you change from one device to another. You can, if you have Verizon, you can have everything backed up into the cloud, so your contacts, right, your photos even, and all of that will be there on your new device once you switch lines. So it's absolutely incredibly easy. You don't have to worry about that anymore.
No, and so Verizon Backup does it. There's some other apps and stuff that help you if you're crossing platforms and that. So switching a phone now, you don't have to give up your phone number anymore. You don't have to, give up any. It's not. You don't have to type everything in like you used to. Remember, you used to hate to get a phone because you had to put it all in. But
yeah, it was harder.
The other positive about the Android I want to say is that so Google all works with that. So if you are a Gmail user, if you are a Google Drive user, if you are a Google Docs user, all of that ties in seamlessly with the Android operating system.
Yeah.
So that is a huge plus for them.
It's true. I also want to remind everyone we're going to give away this amazing HTC One M8 device, and this one is absolutely famous for its camera as well, and we're going to pick that from the stream. So post your questions or recommendations, or best yet, post if you've learned something new today that you didn't know before. That'll be a great way to find if we're adding some value to your decision making here on the mobile life. Robyn, let's talk a little bit about devices. The devices themselves. I have here a Motorola device that I customized. I was complaining about color, so in this one I actually made it quite purple, and it has a yellow control as well, so I can see that. What about the devices? Tell me about the devices themselves, not the OS, but what do you look for in a device?
So I look for screen size. That's really important to me. So some people like a small size phone, and that's great, but some people want a bigger phone. For me, I'm 44, And my eyes, I've noticed they're deteriorating a little bit. And so I like having that bigger screen size without having to constantly stretch my screen. I can still do that, but I don't have to do it as much if I have a larger screen. I also look for durability on your device. How durable is it? I don't use cases as much as most people think I should, apparently, but I change phones a lot because of what I do, so that's the factor for me. But you need to find out how durable it is. If you're giving it to, you know, your teenage son who is into sports and throwing his books down and stuff all the time, you need something a little more durable. My husband, he goes through a lot of phones. So that's an issue. And if you use your phone for work, but you're on your work's network, you need to make sure there's some compatibility there. So talk to your IT department if you need to find out if there are some specific phones that maybe won't work or ones that will work better for that. School would be the same way. The other thing is camera. We want to have a complete segment on just on camera that we're going to talk about, or do you want me to go in?
We just have a few minutes, but certainly I think that's when we ask what's the decision-making aspect on choosing a phone, the camera comes up way up there. Sometimes it's number one on the list, and I have to say it's so important because you know, of the amount of pictures we take every day, all of us, some shared and some not so. So what would you say, I mean, about the cameras in general that are on these devices?
So they're so much more amazing. I mean, compared to our little flip phones, remember all of our pictures were small and grainy. It's not like that anymore. These phones take amazing pictures. Some of them can be on par with DSLR cameras even. The megapixel size that you see, that's the number you're going to see on a phone camera, is not the be-all, end-all. It's great, and it means you can make the picture bigger and it has more detail, but for most of us just taking snapshots of our family, our pets, our food, things like that, you don't have to have the largest megapixels in order to get a great photo. The lens is more important than that, and then the apps that are using the cameras would be a more important thing. So take some shots and, you know, and test them out and see the difference in them. I think everybody already knows that I love the Nokia cameras for phones, or for the Nokia phones for cameras. They are my favorite, but my Samsung devices, the HTC One M8, all of them, they still take great photos. So you're not lacking on ability to take great pictures, but learn to use the settings and stuff on them and play around and have fun with the cameras too.
Yeah. So I hope that we've added some value and that you all can make better decisions. Nothing is going to beat, as Geek Babe on Twitter said earlier, Jean, go to the store, test drive. Literally, you can play around with the devices, ask a lot of questions, and sit on a workshop. Verizon has free workshops. I'm not sure about the other carriers, but you don't even have to have a Verizon phone to attend the workshops for free. There's one on each operating system, and also on how to do some of the most common things, like edit your photos, share your photos, for example, and they're in English and Spanish. So really take the time to learn about it and use all these resources so that you can make a better decision about your next new smartphone.
And I would add one more thing, Monica, is that if you have some adaptability needs for hearing, visuals, different things like that, some of the phones have more settings for those things like that. If you need, you know, the contrasting visual, or if you need to use it with different hearing devices and that. So if you have some of those specific needs, definitely ask in the store to see what they recommend.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure you're definitely recommending. Well, I know what you recommend because you can't seem to be able to be pried out of that brand, but you do love them. It's just as far as camera and the camera apps, or what are those that you favor? I know you probably use Instagram sometimes.
I do. So Instagram, Photofy, I think is how you say it. Photofy is one of my new favorite things, and that's for adding things to my pictures, and and then Instagramming them or Twitter and stuff. Photor is good. The Nokia camera app is fabulous. Camera Plus, if you're on iOS, that's a paid one, but well worth the money. There really are a ton of them, and if you're looking for camera apps or editing apps and that, go look for the free ones, the light versions, and try them out and see what they do. Make notes if you have to, because there's a lot of them, and then wait to buy one until you try out some of the free ones first and see what they do. Look at the ratings in the app stores. That's why we always suggest you rate things when you like them, because it or when you don't like them even. It helps other people make a decision about the best apps that you can get.
Yes. And one last thing, if you want a phone makeover, you have an old phone, say a 2-year-old phone or older, and you would like us to just give you a quick makeover and customize a recommendation, and you might even get one along the way according to your lifestyle needs, please feel free to fill out the form, and we will be inviting you all to our next smartphone makeover that we will have on this chat soon. And we have a winner of the Verizon HTC One M8. Thank you to Verizon for providing this great price. And the winner today is @ @ICSupreme. And thank you so much. This will be shipped out to you. This is the exact one, actually. We'll be sending this out. And thanks, everyone. Thank you so much, Robyn, for joining today again. Usual. You have great tips and advice for all of us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday weekend.
Yes, enjoy. Have a safe and have a safe weekend, and be sure to post some of your pictures on the VZWBuzz hashtag this weekend so we can look and see how much fun you're having at the end of the summer. And we'll see you next week, again, same time, same place, for another great mobile lifestyle chat, and hope you can join us. Thanks again.